On beta, the Guild Battlegrounds now have trials, but what does that actually mean? Let's break it down. First, let's look at the Guild Expeditions. If you've played them recently, then you know that when the season starts, you have to choose a trial that decides things like the rewards you receive and the difficulty of the enemy fights. The trials in Guild Battlegrounds follow a very similar idea. You'll have 50 trials to choose from. As you choose harder trials, enemy armies will be much harder, even gaining a critical hit chance. If you want a big chart of all the values at all attrition levels, there is one in the spreadsheet linked in the description that is a tad bit overwhelming. So here's a less panic-inducing version. Trial 1, all the way on the left, has roughly the same enemy army boosts that you're used to on the live servers. That means that every trial past 1 is harder, with the maximum enemy boost at trial 50 being just shy of 170,000%. However, when you factor in the critical hit chance that the enemy armies get, it ends up being more like 212,000%. Quite a step up from the maximum of 41,000% that we have currently. By the way, yes, maximum attrition on beta is at 150. If you missed it, there were some scaling adjustments done on beta a couple months ago that essentially reduced the amount of fights you need to do by half, while increasing rewards more than proportionally. I'll link my video on that update after this one. Negotiations also scale, but, well, I don't think we have to talk about them too much here. Also, unlike the Guild Expeditions, you will be able to change your trial from day to day. You're not locked into a single trial for the entire season. If you feel a given trial is too hard or too easy, you can easily swap it out for a different one. If you do want a challenge, you'll likely be coming up against units with a critical hit chance. That critical hit is the same boost you see when you have an Arctic Orangery, a chance for those enemy units to deal 1.5 times the damage. Unlike your critical hit chance, though, the enemies will apply to units of any age. Of course, if you're fighting these harder enemies, you're probably wondering what's going on with the reward situation. All rewards have been moved from being given after a fight to being placed into 2 new item stores. Now you can receive either silver, gold, or platinum coins from each fight, and those are the only rewards you can receive directly from a fight. The chances to win a reward win each type of coin, and the quantity of those coins won changes from trial to trial. On average, you gain more coins per fight with harder trials, but the silver coins eventually stagnate at an average of 60 per fight. You can spend these coins in the 2 item stores. The first store is for the silver coins only. Here you have your more basic rewards, resources, and those old battleground buildings. But the tourney grounds and some diamonds are also available. This store refreshes at the start of each season, but your silver coins, actually all 3 types of coins, will carry over from season to season and championship to championship. They're permanent currencies. Speaking of the gold and platinum coins, you can spend them in the championship store. This one refreshes with each championship and contains some very powerful items, including the main championship rewards for every championship. That's right, they have finally done it. You can complete any championship building that you've missed out on in the past. However, they won't come cheap. The championship buildings will cost platinum coins to buy, the rarest currency, and the secondary buildings from those championships will cost gold coins. You can also buy some diamonds here with gold coins too. The interesting part about the championship store is that the longer the rewards from old championships are in there, the larger a discount they will receive. It's a 10% discount for each championship that passes since each reward was offered, capped at 50%. You'll have to decide between your patience for a better deal or saving up for a more powerful and less power-crept building. Additionally, you may have noticed that some items in my chart have a plus sign next to the rewards, namely the tourney grounds, forge points, goods, and diamonds in both stores. These rewards will increase in price as you purchase more. As of right now, I don't know the full list of costs for the diamonds in the championship store, but it looks like they will be getting fairly expensive. If you have enough coins to purchase all the rewards in the category, you're looking at up to 4 tourney grounds and 1,167 diamonds per season. Now this might all seem a little confusing. Which trial do you choose to get the most rewards? Don't worry, I've got a calculator in the spreadsheet linked below. You'll have to make a copy of the spreadsheet in order to edit it, and once you do, it's pretty straightforward. Enter the highest enemy army boost you can reliably defeat. In other words, what's the boost of the enemy armies at your max attrition. Then decide whether you want to include the enemy critical hit chance. I recommend you keep the box checked, as it should give you a better idea of what the fights will actually feel like. Next, choose whether you play on 11 days of the season, Thursday through Sunday, or if you play on that sliver of a 12th day early in the morning on that last Monday. Lastly, add in your average ranking points you receive per fight if you care about ranking points. Then the spreadsheet does the rest and will calculate the optimal trial to choose to receive each type of coin, even giving you an estimate of how many fights per day you will have to do. You can also see the average amount of that reward that you can expect to receive each season. If you'd rather pick out your own trial, all the data is shown below for your estimated max attrition, fights, and rewards you can expect. At this point, you may be wondering the effect this will have on your fighting. After all, if you choose a higher trial, you'll be able to do less fights, meaning your guild won't be able to take as many provinces that you would need to win the championship. And yeah, that sums it up. Choosing a higher trial does not increase the amount of advances you contribute to each province, nor does it do anything to help your guild. Quite frankly, going for more rewards with higher trials will hurt your guild, as you won't be able to complete as many fights. You really have to choose between getting more rewards or contributing to your guild. That's as good of a segue as any to talk about my thoughts on these changes. Obvious disclaimer that I doubt the balancing here is final. Remember, this is on the beta server and is a pretty massive change to a core feature. Don't take anything here as being set in stone, but rather as a suggestion for the direction the feature is going. In fact, there's already likely going to be some rebalancing, but we don't know what it will look like yet. With that out of the way, I'm breaking my thoughts down into talking about the rewards mechanics, the balancing, and the feature as a whole. Starting with the reward systems with the coins and the shops. I think it's a very good way of doing it. While there is some randomness in the coins you'll receive, there is no more wondering in terms of what rewards you will get, and you can actually choose the rewards you want to receive. If you don't want any of the unit rewards, you don't need to spend your coins on them. I really like that freedom. Of course, there's also the return of the old championship buildings in the championship shop, and that's something that I know myself and quite a few folks have been hoping to see since the championships came out. It's nice to know that these buildings are no longer exclusive to only the small subset of top guilds, and that any player in any guild in any league can eventually get them, although you will have to do a significant amount of fights to get enough platinum coins. I also appreciate that the costs of these buildings drop as time goes on, keeping the older buildings still interesting as potential options despite power creep. From a purely selfish point of view, this change also means that I might start participating in Guild Battlegrounds again. If I can guarantee myself certain rewards and can play at a high trial where I only have to do a few fights, I think it's a worthwhile time investment for me to make. That's something I can't say about the current state of the feature on the live servers, so I'm really happy to see this. That brings us to the balancing of the costs of buildings and rewards. Yes, the total amount of Forge Points, goods, and diamonds you can win from the feature has been capped at a value lower than what some players can achieve currently. However, I think there is also some sense to reward amounts being nerfed. With the introduction of the championship buildings to be available to all and no longer being exclusive, some amount of balancing would need to be in place to keep Guild Battlegrounds from being too powerful in that respect. In the case of goods and Forge Points, for example, yes, those have been reduced in terms of the ones you receive directly. However, you also now have the ability to get championship buildings that provide tons of Forge Points and goods every day without you having to do any fights. I'd sum up the rewards in this version of Guild Battlegrounds as less stuff in general, but a much stronger reward pool and more agency in which rewards you want to receive. I do think there's definitely a discussion worth having about the exact coin costs of various rewards and the purchase caps on items in the store. For example, if you have items getting more expensive with each purchase, there will be a point of diminishing returns and a cap feels somewhat unnecessary. However, I wouldn't be surprised if the caps and costs of items is something that will be adjusted based on the way folks buy items on beta, so I'm not that concerned. The thing I do have an issue with is how these changes interplay with the larger feature of Guild Battlegrounds. Guild Battlegrounds is largely the only direct collaboration feature that exists for guilds. The guild expeditions and quantum incursions have their own strengths, but largely they are solo endeavors. In the Battlegrounds, you are directly working with your guildmates against other guilds in real time. You need to secure provinces by fighting and hold enough of them to squeeze out a win. As such, the current trial system seems counterintuitive to the goals of the Battlegrounds. It shifts the focus from working together as a guild to getting the most individual rewards. After all, you can get the same rewards per fight in any guild in any league, and even get the main championship buildings after the fact, so what's the point of trying to win a season or championship beyond the title? If you want to help your guild, you'll have to give up personal rewards, and if you want personal rewards, you're going to hurt your guild's participation. I feel like this implementation is still missing something that synergizes with the collaboration that made Guild Battlegrounds a successful feature. Even just a progress multiplier based on your trial could make a big difference. The higher a trial you complete, the more progress you contribute per fight. Even beyond that though, I think there should be a reason for you to want to work together with your guild. One example could be a multiplier to the coins you collect each season based on your guild's performance that would incentivize trying to win. Or maybe reaching certain thresholds of total advances could unlock higher purchase limits in the shop. Then you'd have to strategize getting enough progress and getting enough coins to get those items. Suffice to say, I think the changes here provide a lot of interesting avenues to make the feature more strategic and collaborative while still having the trials and new reward mechanics. And I'd really like to see that extra step to make Guild Battlegrounds more engaging. To me, that's the ultimate pinnacle. At the end of the day, I don't care what rewards I'm receiving from Guild Battlegrounds if I don't have fun playing the feature in the first place. If Inno is able to implement something to really build back up the need to work with your guild and tweak some of the balancing of caps and costs in the shop, I think Guild Battlegrounds could be well on its way to becoming a very interesting feature again. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. We don't know when or if these exact changes are coming to live servers, so don't get too worried that you'll have to start planning for all this yet. I've linked the announcement for the changes down below in the description alongside my spreadsheet with the rewards calculator and other data. Consider joining my Discord server if you want to discuss the new changes or if you want to stay on top of what's new in the game. And as always, I'll see you all next time.